Hello, I'm Becky Gonzalez, a recent graduate at the University of North Texas. Welcome to Stand Up and Report. This program is the first of its kind. It was produced by student journalists during the 1988 National Hispanic Media Conference in Dallas. If you missed the conference, we hope this video will inspire you to participate in the years to come. The Dallas conference was the scene of several firsts for the National Association of Hispanic Journalists. Kimberly Flores is here with more. Kimberly?
Thank you, Becky. After months of tireless planning by the National Association of Hispanic Journalists and the Dallas-Fort Worth Network of Hispanic Communicators, the 6th annual conference kicked off at the Hyatt Regency Hotel. The conference presented two major opportunities for students like me. One was the production of this video, and second was the creation of a daily newspaper. Almost 40 students work side by side with Hispanic journalists to cover the major events of this convention.
This is going to give them exposure to some of the working professional Hispanic journalists from all over the country, people who work for major newspapers, who have reached a certain level in their careers where they can actually, give some good, solid answers and some feedback and some great editing on their stories.
At a pre-production meeting, WFAA's Gloria Campos gave students tips for preparing their video news stories. All major conference events were videotaped.
Aim it at her, Frank.
The conference was evidence of a growing Hispanic market, a community who is not about to forget its heritage.
I think the most important issue is education. The dropout rate among Hispanics has been pointed out that it's horrible. It's not tolerated anymore.
So the work ethic was put into us, but I didn't hear my father saying over and over again, you must educate yourself, you must educate yourself, you must educate yourself.
The major issues journalists addressed in their panels were the English-only movement, educational concerns, and the lack of Hispanics in the media. Of great concern was the cancellation of Trial and Error, the only primetime network television show featuring Hispanics.
Right now, Hispanics have a lot of images to live down to, and they have very few images in the media to live up to.
30, 40 years roll around, and the whole demographics of this country, it's going to be a whole new different ball game, and se habla español. Let us hope that we don't pass a Spanish-only law back then.
Tough guys don't do math. Tough guys deep fried chicken for a living.
Saturdays? We gotta come on Saturdays?
You're gonna work harder than you ever worked before.
Well, we're seniors. This is our year to slack off.
This should be rewarded, not punished.
The values that we have brought to the screen with Stand and Deliver won't be duplicated ever again in the history of this country's filmmaking process.
Almost's film, Stand and Deliver, was frequently lauded as a positive statement of education.
1 and equals to 3, so what you're going to do is just remove the parentheses.
Education again was stressed when prominent political leaders spoke during the conference. One such leader was Henry Cisneros.
But I do think that there is going to be an increase in the Hispanic influence in America, and that it can be a very positive thing. It's nothing to be afraid of. It's nothing to regard as an alien force in any way, shape, or form, but it will be the next chapter in the development of America.
Much of that depends on how we, as the organized Hispanic community, in the various disciplines, media included, continue to make the strides that we are expecting of ourselves.
Young media journalists were presented at the job fair. It was also a time to meet with peers from other cities.
We got some runners now. Go for it, darling.
Conference participants also had the chance to let their hair down at the social events, at the dances, hospitality rooms, movies, and at Circle R Ranch in Flower Mound, Texas. The social events enhance a bond Hispanic culture tends to generate. This convention brought together more than 1,000 journalists, each with their own agenda for personal growth. For the National Hispanic Media Conference, I'm Kim Flores.
The 1980s have been called the decade of the Hispanic. Perhaps that is most evident in the increasing amount of advertising aimed at the Hispanic market. Sandra Fernandez sampled the opinions of several convention goers and found while there's been some progress, there's still a long way to go.
In this documentary, we will see some of the developments which have occurred through the years and how they help each of us.
Bienvenido, Carlos. Todos los viajes que hiciste valieron la pena. La compañía llamó y nos dio el proyecto.
In the past, the marketing industry did not take the Hispanic community much into consideration. However, now it is evident corporate America is aware of our needs.
Many people refer to the Hispanic community as a sleeping giant, and I say on the contrary, corporate America has been the sleeping giant. We've been in existence for a long time as a very diverse and strong consumer, and it's corporate America who hasn't taken note of us.
Because of cultural considerations, we've had to use unique approaches to be able to address our particular market group, in terms of language and in terms of culture, clearly. So you can see a wave now where there are individuals that are targeting this particular market in this very, very special way, through print and through radio and various other mediums.
And for various reasons, some are methodological, like having too small a sample. In other cases, it's just misinterpreting data or misusing it. In any of these cases, what often happens is that we present information or information becomes available, which is not really reflective of who we are and what we are.
Corporate America is learning that we are thoughtful consumers. As a result, the advertising industry is awakening to the needs of Hispanic Americans. In exchange, Hispanics are demanding corporations take an active role in the community, so together they can address issues important to Hispanics.
Nobody likes a fat chicken.
This is Sandra Fernandez reporting for the National Hispanic Media Conference.
English only is ridiculous because America is not English only. It doesn't offend me to hear Koreans speak Korean. It doesn't offend me to hear Germans speak German. I just came back from Canada. Quebecans, they speak French. I think English only is a masquerade racial issue.
The English only movement would have a horrible impact on America because it's divisive, it's hostile, it's anti-Hispanic, and it's anti-America, and it's anti-education. We should not be for English only or anything only. The business of education and the kind of America that we need is an America that has a lot of pluses. So it's got to be English plus social studies, and English plus computers, and English plus communication, and English plus Spanish.
Samuel Batanzas, a motivational speaker and professor at Northeastern Illinois University, says the entire movement is against anyone who believes in a strong America. Another issue that arose during the conference was the cancellation of the network comedy Trial and Error.
Whole new different ball game, and se habla español.
Eduardo Cervantes, vice president of current programming for Columbia Pictures, says that the cancellation of the series is a setback for Hispanics.
Currently, Hispanics do not have an image and a presence on primetime television. Trial and Error provided a potential opportunity for us to not only have Trial and Error, but with a modicum of success, perhaps to have developed other series that would have given more Hispanics opportunities, Hispanic actors, writers, but more importantly, images for our young people to look up to.
Emmy Award-winning actor Eddie Olmos says that the series was not given a fair chance.
Trial and Error is something that Paul had a real good, funny antidote to that. He said, under the Nielsen's, we didn't do too well. But under the Gonzaleses, or Ramirez, or Fernandez's, we did real well. And that's the problem that we have right now. It's a comment that's coming through loud and clear, and I hope that people understand it.
Still, Olmos feels Hispanics are apathetic toward their own community. He says the low attendance of his movie Stand and Deliver in theaters throughout the country is evidence.
Did you know that more non-Hispanic people are seeing this movie than Hispanic people, which is a shame, because they're getting all of the positive energy that comes from that movie.
In the film, a math teacher turns an unruly group of East Los Angeles teens into well-educated students. The kids other teachers had given up on not only beat the odds and passed math, but secured college credit by scoring extremely well on the advanced test for calculus.
What's the domain?
X is greater than -1.
No, to the end of the line. I've been gone 2 days and you forget already. What?
Now, the first time we have an inspirational movie that deals with the brain. You get inspired because of the usage of the brain, and it's done by Hispanic kids.
The Hispanic dropout rate has reached alarming proportions. Estimates range from 30 to 50%. The numbers serve to dramatize a crisis in the education of the Hispanic community. But there is a commitment from the Hispanic community to solve this problem. Marjorie Montoya has more.
Minority populations tend to be younger on the average, means that we're going to see some very profound changes in the way our society works.
¿Cuántos saben dónde está la letra que no hablan?
A major change in American society is the continued recognition of Hispanics as a bilingual community. According to Cisneros, Hispanics must continue to develop internal leadership to meet the challenges of a bilingual population, particularly in the arena of education.
Through skiing, Julie has learned how to compete.
How do we educate our young people sufficiently to make sure that we are not saddled as a society with populations that are illiterate and underproductive, unemployed in large masses throughout some of the most key regions of our states?
I dropped out of school because I was too old for, the grade I was in. I was a sophomore, and I'm 19.
Historically, Hispanics have had and continue to have a large dropout rate. Patricia Diaz-Dennis revealed these startling statistics.
Nationwide, only about 55 out of every 100 Hispanic students obtain a high school diploma. Of the 22 who begin college, only 7 finish and two complete a graduate school education.
By contrast, the majority of journalists at the conference earned college degrees, each becoming a role model within their respective communities.
I've had an opportunity to speak to students in my hometown in Phoenix, Arizona. Every place I go, I let them know that there's opportunities there, that there are people that they can talk to, people they can learn from. And a conference like this just verifies and confirms everything that I've been saying. It's a place where people can come together and learn and share and, most importantly, support one another.
A group who supported the conference through their experience-oriented efforts was the staff of the daily student newspaper. From the ranks of this publication, a coalition quickly formed and proclaimed themselves to be the Latino Reporter Brat Pack. Their main objective, to make future contacts.
It's really important to us to know as many people as we can, to establish success in the field.
Being here and meeting people who I've never met before, it's just giving me a tremendous sense of who I am and what I want to do, and I've never been more proud to be a Latino than these past 3 days.
Throughout the conference, guest speakers such as Edward Olmos, Samuel Bentantes, Paul Rodriguez, Patricia Diaz-Dennis, and Henry Cisneros all had a strong impact on conference attendees.
It is not fate or chance or the irreversible tides of history. It is reason and it is principle. And most importantly, the work of our own hands.
Cisneros closed his remarks by saying Latinos shouldn't consider the 80s or 90s as the decades of the Hispanic. Rather, our population represents a major change in the colorization of America. It is this type of social education that benefited all conference participants. Reporting for the National Hispanic Media Conference, I'm Marjorie Montoya.
The recent death of Willie Velasquez, founder of the Southwest Voter Registration Education Project, serves to underscore the dramatic impact of the Hispanic community in politics. Velasquez was eulogized by Michael Dukakis and was praised in his speech at the Democratic National Convention. Lucia Alvarez takes a look at the status of Hispanic political power through the eyes of conference participants.
In Texas, there are 3 million Mexican Americans. These numbers are increasing in every aspect of society, but in areas like media, Hispanics are still underrepresented.
Of the 35 or so correspondents that cover the state capitol regularly, these are the people that send information to 17 million Texans. There's only 1 Mexican American that reports on a regular basis.
According to David Diaz, an administrative aide in the Texas legislature, politics is well aware of the media's influence. Diaz encouraged journalists to cover political issues.
And government is going to try to influence you one way or another, and they're going to use the high skills that they've got, and they're going to use journalists, so it might as well be you.
There is going to be an increase in the Hispanic influence in America, and that it can be a very positive thing.
San Antonio Mayor Henry Cisneros stated, Hispanics will be the next chapter in the development of America.
Today we have 19 million, so we know that by 1990 we probably will exceed that 20 million.
Jorge de Pinal explains that in the last few years the Hispanic population has increased due to high birth rates and immigration from abroad.
This, not only will we know how many households there are, we'll know where they are, what states, towns, even to the block level.
This change in population means encouraging youth towards higher education. At the conference, Hispanic professionals served as role models for students working on a video documentary and a daily newspaper.
Experience in the Latino Reporter, where we learned how to write stories. We work with some of the best reporters in the country.
The Latino Reporter was organized by Maggie Rivas, a journalist at the Dallas Morning News. The majority of the writing and photography was generated by college students from across Texas. What brought you to the conference?
Working on the Latino Reporter, the experience and the feedback that I'm going to get from a lot of the professionals who are helping us out of it.
The newspaper and video projects within this conference marked the first time in 6 years that students could actively participate and gain professional experience. Reporting for the National Hispanic Media Conference, I'm Lucia Alvarez.
One of the highlights and biggest drawing cards to the National Hispanic Media Conference is the job fair. The 1988 job fair was the biggest ever. Since Hispanics are widely underrepresented in print and electronic media, the job fair is a vital link to employment. It serves to connect Hispanics to corporations starving for Latino talent. Francisco Tristan reports.
In recent years, there has been a sizable increase of Hispanics in corporate America. Job fairs such as this one contribute to placing qualified applicants in suitable job positions.
With the influx, or with the anticipated influx of Hispanics into media, corporate America sees its responsibility in supporting efforts such as the Hispanic National Media Conference to provide more opportunities for Hispanics to get into a profession that for many, many years has been absent, or from which they've been absent.
Throughout the convention, Hispanic professionals interviewed with media representatives, such as the Chicago Tribune and CBS News. But for students beginning their career, the job fair provided them the opportunity to get their foot in the door.
It's so nice to have all these people that one employees all in one place. Saves a lot of time and a lot of money.
Eileen Lorente is a recent graduate out of the University of Texas in Austin. She's seeking her first career opportunity with the newspaper.
As a former broadcast journalist, I'm very pleased to see an increased involvement on the part of corporate America, as well as the news media corporations themselves, in the development of this potential workforce.
Photojournalism is so competitive, and I'm just straight out of school, and it's kind of, you know, you just never know until you call them back or get back with them, and I think the trick is being persistent.
Each year, the job fair has grown. Major media organizations now depend on this event to recruit Hispanic talent. Over the years, hundreds of journalists have secured positions due to this job fair. Reporting from the National Hispanic Media Conference, I'm Francisco Tristan.
Like any convention, the National Hispanic Media Conference served as an entertaining as well as enriching experience for the participants. When it was time to put up conference agendas and put down your hair, the Dallas Expo was a fun place to be. Tim Vasquez takes us to the party.
Hi, this is Tim Vasquez. We're in Flower Mound at the Circle R Ranch, just 40 miles outside of Dallas, where a lot of country and western activities going on.
Come on over here, darling. Come here, darling. Is it not true that when you got to Texas, the first thing you heard was howdy, y'all?
That's right.
Are you learning now how to say it?
Yep.
How do you say it?
Howdy, y'all.
Woo, well, honey, I'm going to give you leg and lots of it, too. If you got master charge, I'll let you be master and I'll charge.
Join hands in a little big ring and circle to the left, circle to the left.
Many of the journalists learned for the first time how to square dance in do-si-do.
Let me get around another 10 minutes. There you go. Around that one. Hey, man, go, man.
After the food and dance, the action shifted to the rodeo ring to partake in some of the Old West activities that make Texas unique. Although there were mixed results when a few of our braver legions tried their hand at calf roping. The Dallas Convention wasn't all rodeo and country and western activities. Most everybody's thoughts about Texas are 10-gallon hats and cowboys and oil wells, but no, it's not all like that. Conventionaires found several places to dance and party. One of the hottest young comedians today, Paul Rodriguez, was there to keep people entertained.
The thing is, to have Latinos on television, it's not a matter of life and death. It's much more important than that. You know, I've been on a few shows, and I personally, the reason I feel bad about wearing a button is that I don't want you to misunderstand that I am here saying, bring back this show because I got a Yugo to pay for, and I have dreams of being a landowner. My house is through escrow. What I'm trying to say is that if trial and error didn't function, it didn't function on the Nielsen ratings, it's because they are called the Nielsen ratings. I think on the Gomez or the Chavez ratings, I think on the Garcia ratings, we have a shot.
Dallas is also looked at as being one of the most futuristic cities in the U.S. The Hyatt Regency Hotel reflected that view. From the top of Reunion Tower to the tranquil beauty of the lobby, it was a perfect place for the many broadcast groups to cater to journalists. New friendships were struck and old ones renewed, while the flavor of the cultural heritage wasn't lost in a sea of blue suits surrounded by chrome and glass.
Hispanics, as you know, have an intolerable school dropout rate.
Though it was important to discuss many of these vital issues and goals for the future, it's also important that everybody have a good time. Tim Vasquez, reporting for the National Hispanic Media Conference.
Well, there you have it, a look at the 1988 National Hispanic Media Conference in Dallas, Texas. The 1989 conference is set for San Juan, Puerto Rico. Hope you'll join us in making it and future conferences bigger and better every year, because together, sí se puede. I'm Becky Gonzalez, reporting for the National Hispanic Media Conference.
Yeah, we go, Mom. Everybody should be listening, Garfield, and everybody say, be the best, be the best, be the best, be the best, be the best. Wait.
The 1980s have been called the decade of the Hispanic. Perhaps that's most evident here in Texas by the number of advertising dollars now aimed at the Hispanic pocketbook. And it's easy to remember how the Hispanic voter was courted in the last elections. Channel 9's Becky Gonzalez has been looking at the growth of the Hispanic population and the problems it's creating. And she joins us now in our newsroom. Becky, it is a malaise of problems, isn't it?
Yes, and did you know that that within the next 20 years, 1 out of every 3 Texans will be Hispanic? Of course, most of the major growth is occurring in big cities like Dallas and Houston. However, the Permian Basin already has one of the largest Hispanic populations in the country. The number of Hispanics in the United States has increased 30% since 1980 to 19 million. They now make up almost 8% of the nation's population. By the year 2000, the growth is expected to reach 30 million, or 15% of America's population. Corporate America has been the first to notice. Hispanics spend $130 billion a year. The Permian Basin holds the 30th largest Hispanic population in the country. Average family income is just under $23,000, compared to almost $33,000 a year for the rest of the general population. According to one study, Hispanics aren't blending into the American system as fast as other immigrants. Some have said the Hispanic population is like a melting pot. Others say it's more like a salad. You can mix it, but it won't blend.
Anytime the people who appear to differ in behavior, or actually do because of social cultural differences, enter a dominant society, they're looked at as being outsiders. And of course, you're looked at as an outsider until eventually your behaviors are similar to that of the group.
We're trying to not only get in the mainstream of America, but in everything, you know, in business and in education, with all the cultures, because that's the only way we're going to prosper.
No other ethnic group has held on to its language so tightly. What most people don't know is that when Texas and Mexico signed the Treaty of Guadalupe in 1848, the natives here were promised the right to retain culture, religion, and language. Even so, nationwide, only about 2 million Hispanics speak only Spanish. But with the influx of immigrants into the United States, that number is expected to grow. 70% of all Hispanics still speak Spanish at home, but many young Hispanics speak only English because they're eager to gain acceptance from their Anglo peers. The rest of the week we'll be telling you about why the Hispanic holds on to its culture so tightly and some of the problems that it may cause in being able to move into mainstream America and to some of the professional jobs.
Becky, where's the growth of the Hispanic community coming from right now?
Well, Randy, something that needs to be clarified is that when the term Hispanic is used, it's being used to describe Latin Americans, Cubans, Puerto Ricans, and they're also contributing to the huge growth of the Hispanic population nationwide. However, here in West Texas, they are coming from Mexico, and some were already here. This is their homeland.
Becky, in that first story, you mentioned some of the problems that the Hispanic community is facing now. What are some of the other problems?
Well, some of the other problems that Hispanic leaders are addressing are the dropout rate, and as well as Hispanic-owned businesses are a very small percentage here, and even being able to start a business is very difficult for Hispanics. So we'll be talking about some of those issues later on in the week.
We'll look for those segments. Thanks very much.